Hello, welcome to my devlog. I finally managed to create something like a demo level, but first I'd like to show some themes I originally had the game could play in. Being more exactly, I still do not know which theme to choose, but I still liked to present some of the original ideas. The first one would be something like a wizard school. There you would have a hub vault. The hub vault would be a tower, which would also be something like a big, huge library. And you would have your books, but you would also have your science books within this library. So some parts of the plot could be explained with magic, and other parts could be explained with electricity. Also, the player character would be able to fly or to hover above things. That would make the perspective much easier, and having something like flying mode could make the gameplay more easy. I'm thinking at the moment at last. And this flying could be explained with magic. Another idea could be the space station theme. There the character would wake up out of a cryopod or something because of an emergency, and he would have to learn the basics of electricity on board of this huge spaceship, and soon he would have to get into a escape pod and land on the planet below. While landing, this escape pod, this escape shuttle, also gets a mail function, and he once more has to escape from the escape pod with a more tiny escape pod. The reason of this story arc would be that the player would have to get from one level of the mountains to another with something like a slackline, and he wouldn't be able to take his pieces of the puzzle, the pieces of the circuit pieces with him. Because of those former explosions on the escape pod, he could be able to collect those pieces of circuits on each island, and each island, which would be on a different level in the mountains, would have different pieces, and because of those pieces on the specific spot, he would be able to build specific circuits. The character would also have some shoes which would make him bigger and go into the air to have a better point of view. Also, one idea I had was having something like an escape level where you would have to escape from prison, and the plot would be that you have multiple boxes within your cell and on the corridor, and you would have to open those boxes, maybe with some special kind of tool, and within those boxes you would see the wires, and you would have to rearrange those wires, and with the help of your knowledge of electricity you would be able to open doors on the very other end of the corridor, as an example. Right now you are seeing how I'm walking through the current version of the first demo level. For the time being I have something like a bunker theme. At least there are a lot of tunnels, but those also look like something like on a like the theme of a typical sci-fi space station. I still haven't decided which theme to choose and in which direction to go to. At this moment I think something like a space station theme or a Fallout Shelter theme could look compatible within this level design. I still have to work on the character control and the different themes of electricity, which is also the main focus of this game and not the theme, but I wanted to have something like a very first impression how walking around could feel like in this game. And a huge point in this walks would be those huge or tiny, depending on the position, chambers, and within each chamber you would have to fulfill a specific task in order to get into the very next hall or chamber. What I've been learning this week was to work with level of detail. Unity gets it quite well, but I had to put a lot of time in producing something like a production pipeline for my workflow. The result was I didn't manage to pack multiple objects into a single Blender file, so I decided to have for each game object a specific Blender file, and within this Blender file I have all objects of different level of details. Keeping this structure makes the import into Unity very easy. You only have to put a underline and LOD and the very number of the specific level of detail object at the end at the name. For this demo I still had to do many things manually. For example, I choose to create the lowest level of detail, which is here the highest number, to be also the mesh collider within the game. So depending on the distance of your camera to the current object, the game displays a different version of the object, and all those versions have a different level of detail, a different amount of vertices, a different amount of polygons, and this makes life very easy and creates a much higher frame rate during gameplay. This may look like a luxury problem at the moment, but thinking ahead, it's a huge deal for me because I know that I created some game objects and I could be able, if I had more time, to make those objects with a higher level of detail and also use bump maps, normal maps, and those objects could become pretty good looking ones if I invested enough time, and having the possibility is nice. But for the time being I'm happy that I have this minimal working product I can show. Oh, one last thing. If you have ideas or suggestions, please feel free to post those in the comments. Thanks for watching.